This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Megillah Daf Zayin Amud Beis. Amar Rava, Mechayev Inish Lebesume Bepuria. A person is obligated lebesume, literally to get drunk on Purim, ad lo yada beinar Haman leBaruch Mordechai, to the point where he doesn't know the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai. A very strange obligation. Why would anybody? How could we ever even say such a thing? That Chazal expect us to become so inebriated that we don't know the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai. And even very interesting, Chazal say there's an obligation that on Purim a person is supposed to say Arur Haman, and you're supposed to say Baruch Mordechai. Well, what's the reason for that? You're supposed to say Arur Haman? Why? Do you ever have anywhere in the whole Torah you have to say, Arur Paroi, Arur Antiochus, Arur the bad guys? We never find you have to say Baruch Moshe, Baruch Yochanan Kohen Gadol, Baruch Matasyahu. What's this Inyan that on Purim you're supposed to curse the bad guy, you're supposed to curse Haman, you're supposed to give Mordechai a bracha? Why? So we have an amazing thing here in the introduction to the commentary of the Nesivos HaMishpat. One of the greatest works on halacha is called the Nesivos HaMishpat, and the Nesivos HaMishpat wrote a commentary on Megillas Esther called Megillas Sesarim, and he writes in his He writes in his introduction to the Megillah the following. If you take a look at number 2. Kimu v'kiblu chachmei hashas. The sages of the Shas have a tradition. Sheha Megillah hazois, that this Megillah, hachiyuv l'kroisa me'roisha v'yatzoifa, we're obligated to read it from beginning to end. Hayru lanu bazeh. What are they teaching us? Why do you have to read the Megillah from beginning to end? Shekal hadvarim, that everything in the Megillah, hakol utzarech hanes, everything is needed for the miracle. And then he says a few lines down, he says, Av gam ra v'heichin lanu refuah olam. God prepared the refuah lehagbia isanu, to raise us up, begram hamaylos, to the highest level. Asher le'inyan zeh amru, to this point, Chazal tell us, chayiv adam lebesume beporia ad lo yada bein Arur Haman leBaruch Mordechai. That a person is obligated to imbibe enough alcohol to not know the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai.
Any type of
Shehu Tamua. No, specifically Yayin. Shehu Tamua, it's a wonder. Why should a person get drunk? What's the reason for that? We know that getting drunk brings to every forbidden practice. Every aver in the world is caused by getting drunk. And here on Purim, for some reason, Chazal command us specifically to drink wine. Okay. So what the Nesivos offers to us is an amazing concept. And it's a concept that really a person should think about not only every day of their life, but really every moment of their life. And that is, we don't understand the repercussions of our actions. We don't know how we could do one thing, it could lead to B, which could lead to C, that could lead to D, that could lead to E, and ultimately everything that is caused by our actions, we are responsible for. For example, you greet someone on the street, you say good morning to them, they're in a good mood. Because they're in a better mood, they do a chesed to someone that maybe they wouldn't have done otherwise, and they did a chesed to someone, that person learns to do chesed, and his children learn from him, and then for the next 30 generations, all the chasadim that are performed were all because you did one thing, good morning. We don't think of it like that way. Says in Nesivos, who was the good guy? Mordechai or Haman? Rabbi said we could make a very strong case. The good guy in the Purim story was Haman. And the bad guy in the Purim story was Mordechai. How could you make that case? Very simply. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Megillah, we had 48 prophets in our history. They all basically did not do a great job. Yeshaya, Yirmiyah, Yechezkel, Hosea, Amos, Ovadia, Yoshua ben Nun. No one listened to them. Nobody listened to Nevi'im. In fact, Yirmiyah, we threw stones at him. Zechariah, we killed him. You think people like to hear Musar? You think people like to hear when the rabbi gets up and says, if you don't come to minyan 3 times a day, maybe we're not going to consider you a good Jew. People don't want to hear that. If people could, they would take a siddur and throw it at the rabbi. People don't want to hear. People don't want to hear that if you don't learn every day, you're not a good Jew. People don't want to hear that. If they could, they would take the bima and they, cuff on the rabbi, har kagigis. So all the Nevi'im basically did not do a great job.
Don't give idea, Rabbi.
Did not do. You know who did the best job of all the Nevi'im? Haman. Because by taking the ring of Achashverosh and writing all the Jews should be murdered, what did that make us do? Unheralded Shuvah. Shuvah on the highest level we ever had. So if we were to ask, which individual in history has the greatest zechus? Haman. Haman is the biggest tzaddik the world has ever seen. Yes, no question. Without a doubt. Haman, if you were to ask, which person in history has the biggest zechus ever? Moshe Rabbeinu, Yirmiyah, Yeshaya. So what? Who said you? So what? Doesn't matter. The person who has the greatest zechus in history? Haman. And if you'd ask, and which person could we say maybe Chas v'Shalom was the biggest, did that which is the worst thing ever in the history of Klal Yisrael? Mordechai, no question. Why? What did Mordechai do? Mordechai didn't want to bow down to Haman. So you say, what's bad about that? Who asked him to go on the street and when Haman comes by, not bow down? Let him stay home. Let him learn in the Beis Medrash. Where do you think he spent his time? What's he going in the street and then Haman's passing by and he's not bowing down to Haman? He's instigating Haman. And because of that, Haman wants to kill Klal Yisrael. So which individual is responsible for the almost annihilation of Klal Yisrael? Mordechai. So the biggest tzaddik in history is Haman. The biggest bum, chas v'shalom, we could make the case, was Mordechai. So you say, yeah, Mordechai didn't intend to cause our annihilation. Haman didn't cause us to do tshuva. Yeah, but we know God pays a person back. If a person causes something good, even unattended, they're rewarded. If a person causes something bad, even without kavanah, they're punished. So Mordechai, we're not so happy with him. In fact, the Gemara says that Klal Yisrael were constantly criticizing Mordechai. They didn't like the fact, who asked him to stick his nose into Haman's face and then not bow down. Stay home, eat your bagel, drink your coffee. Don't go into Haman's face. Don't go into Haman's face. And Haman's a great guy. Haman's the best. Haman's, maybe we should make him Mayetzes Gedolei HaTorah. We should put him up on the bima. Yeah? Put him up. What's the answer? What's the answer? The answer is Haman didn't intend to do anything good. Mordechai didn't intend to do anything bad. But some zechus Haman has, and some demerit Mordechai has. So how do we get around that? So says the Nesivos, Chazal made the following takana. We know, young man, how you doing? Good. We know Chazal made a takana like this. We find that after Avshalom was killed, right after Avshalom died, so then David HaMelech said 8 times, Avshalom b'ni, 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 b'ni. Says the Gemara Masechta Sotah Daf Yud Amud Beis. When David said b'ni each time, that was invoking a certain zechus that Avshalom was the son of David, and ultimately, it took Avshalom out of the 7 chambers of Gehenna. He said b'ni one time, he left chamber 7. He said b'ni a second time, 6, 5. And he said it the 8th time, Avshalom went to Gan Eden. So we see there's a certain thing that you could give someone a bracha, take away their demerits. Says the Nesivos, Chazal were masakin then on Purim, where even though Mordechai is the good guy, and Haman is the bad guy, you should be so farmished and so tumult and confused and fun-cused that you don't know anymore who's better, Mordechai or Haman, because you think to yourself, well, Mordechai got us into the mess. Haman made it that we accepted the Torah B'Av of Ratzon. So what do we do to take away Haman's merit? All of Klal Yisrael, every single year, Arur Haman, Arur Haman, Arur Haman, Arur Haman, Arur Haman. How many times do we clap when we say Haman's name? How many times is Haman's name in the Megillah? 54 times. Machai Emche Ezecher Amalek. Emche is B'gematria 54. God says, I'm going to wipe out Emcha, the 54 mentions of Amalek's name in the Megillah. Says the Nesivos, let's take a look on your sheet in number 6, and with this we conclude. Says the Nesivos, V'lazen nira, Dihnei amru shechayiv adam loimer bepuria Arur Haman Baruch Mordechai shu gam kein tamua. It's a wonder. What kind of thing is it? You ever hear anybody going around saying, Baruch Matisyahu? No. You ever hear anybody go, Arur Antiochus? You never heard of such a thing. Why? Right? Gam ken timud delom lo yischayvu b'chol pam shaya atzal yisok kagam pesach lemer Arur pari Baruch Moshe v'chein b'chanukah lemer Arur matzam bruchim hachashmam l'chein nira atam. You know what the reason is? Dinei amru b'shas kari le Yehudi v'kari le Yemini. Everybody knows he's called Ish Yehudi, he's called Ish Yemini. So the question is he from Yehuda or is he from Binyamin? Amra Knesses Yisrael Fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chazi ma'asali Yemini. Klal Yisrael criticized Mordechai. Look what this Benjamite did to me. To like Katel Shaul Agag. Besides that, Shaul didn't kill Agag. Did Nafak Mine Haman. Haman came out. Debayla Miktalani, he wants to kill me. Ma'asali Yehudi. Look what this Yehudi did to like Katel David Lashimi. That David, Mordechai had a ancestor by the name of Shimi, who really was supposed to be killed. Why wasn't he killed? They had Rachmanis on him. From Shimi came Mordechai. The Jews didn't like Mordechai. De'ikni be'eba Haman. He provoked Haman. Says in the Siyus, by the tzara of Haman, even though Klal Yisrael were really liable to be punished, they did have great tzaddikim. Tahaya hacheresh v'hamaskir elef. They had 1,000 Tamei Chachamim. And they had great pain for nothing. Why do these 1,000 tzaddikim have to suffer? Because this Mordechai guy wants to be a frummy and go into Haman's face and provoke him and then get him angry? If Mordechai caused this tremendous tzar to Klal Yisrael, yesh alav k'tzas din. He needs to be punished a little bit. What do you mean? But he's following the halacha, because the halacha dictated that for the sake of Kiddush Hashem, he needed to go into Haman's face and stick his nose in it and say, I'm not going to bow down. Nevertheless, there is some din on Mordechai. Haman has a big schus also. Ki amr chazal, gedoyla hasaras tabas yoyser mimem ches neviim and neviim shalom Yisrael. When Haman took the ring from Achashverosh, that accomplished more than the 48 Nevi'im. Haman Haman was the cause of this. V'nei amru, Chazal tell us in Saita, Shedavar HaMelech V'Shem Amar Zayin Pa'amim, Bini Avshalom. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Saita that Davar HaMelech said 7 times, Bini, V'Haitziu Mizayin Medura Gehenim. And he took him out of the 7 chambers of Gehenim. Why? Because he mentioned the Zechus of the son. Says the Nesiva, certainly, if every year everyone gives Mordechai a bracha, Baruch Mordechai, all of Klal Yisrael together, Baruch Mordechai, whatever Einesh is resting on Mordechai is removed by the bracha of Klal Yisrael. And whatever zechus Haman has in creating the greatest tshuva movement in history is removed from Klal Yisrael saying, Arur, Arur. But Rabbi said this is the concept of having the simcha, that we don't even realize what was greater. Because on the one hand, yes, Hashem saved us. But on the other hand, what was greater? The fact that Hashem saved us, or the fact that because of Haman, we reached the highest level of tshuva we ever reached in our history, that we're makabel the Torah b'ratzon? What's greater? Baruch Mordechai, that ultimately God saved us? Or our Haman? The fact that we have to curse Haman because of the tremendous tshuva movement he caused. We should be on the madrega that we can't even understand the difference between the two. In other words, we should be able to comprehend that the fact that Klal Yisrael reached such an exalted level of Kabbalah Satar, that was so great, it even surpassed the fact that God saved our lives. But this is an amazing concept when you think about the fact that even Haman, who tried to annihilate our people, the fact that something good came about as a result of his actions, he has a reward for that. And we have to destroy that. And the fact that Mordechai has a certain punishment, what's the punishment? Because he made us suffer, there's a certain einish on him. It's a tremendous concept of how far-reaching the repercussions of a person's actions are. You never know. A person, comes early to davening, and then another person sees, they come early to davening. They also start coming early to davening, and they may start coming early thousands of times, and then other people learn from them, and their children learn from them, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and you never know. Because of one tiny, small mitzvah that you did, you could be affecting literally millions of people. And sometimes, you say something improper to someone, and it makes them insulted, it makes them sad, and as a result of that, they may do another Aveira, and other people learn from that. All of this is taken into account. And that's the limud of Baruch, Mordechai, and Arur, Haman. That no matter how terrible a person is, if something good comes as a result of their unintended actions, they get schar for that. And no matter how great someone is, if something bad comes about unintended, we have to deal with that also. Rabbi Glatstein, Afreich Purim, Chag Sameach, enjoy your day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.